Shadow Hydreigon gonna hit the field of play, look for a Dragon Breath farm down, getting a very nice energy lead. Unfortunately, the opponent still has 2 shields to hide behind. Out comes Greninja, but we're still gonna YOLO the Dragon Pulse regardless. Does the opponent respect the damage? Welcome back to the channel. Buckle up because today you're in for one hell of a roller coaster of emotions in the Open Ultra League. A lot of people avoid this format, firstly, because it's hella expensive to play, and secondly, it's somewhat boring to play and even more boring to watch. The majority of trainers love to hide behind slow, boring, bulky Pokemon and essentially see the timer in a majority of battles, but that really isn't my style. You could say, why am I running Tentacruel then? Well, there's method in the madness, because my backline is double weak to Fairy, well in theory triple weak, as Hydreigon's Dragon and Dark typing are both weak to Fairy. My gosh, this backline, without a doubt, is one of the most deadly and destructive duos you can run, and my god did I have hella fun running this team. In the most recent Team Rocket takeover, we got access to Shadow Hydreigon, and I thought no one's going to showcase it in the Ultra League, so it's time for your boy Jamiefin to step up. I thought, how can I ensure this Pokemon performs? Of course, Dark/Poison's been a core since the start of PvP. All I need is a save switch to look to bait out said fairy types, and there's no better Pokemon at doing that than my favourite investment I've ever made, my fully maxed out rank 1 level 51 Shadow Primeape. Both Primeape and Hydreigon are what can only be described as glass cannons. Hydreigon's actually got a similar stat distribution to Charizard, but even more attack weighted. We've been through the team building, you know the line of 3, so with all that being said, without any further ado, let's get into the battles! And in game 1, we found ourselves a hole in our team building. We are ABA Weak's Confusion. Mewtwo also has access to Dynamic Punch that Hydreigon's probably not going to fancy tanking to the face. This is what can only be described as a dire situation. Tentacruel lands the Scold. The opponent massively overfarmed, which proves to be somewhat of an issue for me. I'm just going to completely sack the big squid, pray the opponent doesn't have a fairy type. The thought process, I don't really want to shield the bulkiest member of the team when I've got 2 Pokemon in the back that cannot tank a hit for shit. I send out Hydreigon, look for the 1 shield, Dragon Breath farmed out, and it is all going wrong in battle number 1. We end up double shielding, but we do leave a whole heap of residual energy good to go. Thankfully, no fairy hits the field of play. Ironically, something that's weak to dark comes out. We fire off the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing's able to land, and out comes Kiram. Hydreigon, with a bucket load of energy, going to fire off 1 further Brutal Swing, forcing the opponent's first Protect Shield, and here comes Primeape. This monkey is hella glassy, and his bulk's about to be put to the test. The opponent fire off the Dragon Claw, that of course does do more than the Glaciate, but Primeape withstands the damage, fires off the Rage Fist, and here, I'm not attacking. What I'm actually looking to do is steal a win in the Go Battle League. We want to farm down instead of getting farmed down ourselves, and that is a game-winning big brain play. Back out comes Golurk, the first Brutal Swing, forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. Hydreigon, so incredibly spammy, able to outpace the Brutal Swing number 2. Who was worried? Clearly I was. We're off to a 1-0 start. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we see Ampharos in the lead position. We throw 1 Acid, transfer the Volt Switch onto Primeape. The opponent continued to stay in. Jamiefin goes for a cheeky masturbating session. Sorry to the poor defenseless cat I've killed, but this does put me in a good position. They farm up to the double. Oh my god, the opponent completely trolling me. Recognise I can go straight Rage Fist and catch onto Greninja. I intentionally don't throw here, wanting to force the energy. And this actually isn't a bad position to be in, despite looking very silly throwing a Rage Fist onto Greninja. This is going to set up Tentacruel to get a very nice acid farm down. The opponent got the boost, because why bloody not? But the boost isn't really going to help, as Tentacruel more than happy to absorb the energy. Switch timers are misaligned. We know the opponent's got a move bank, but you know what's going to wall the energy? Out comes Hydreigon. Hydreigon going to absorb the Thunder Punch that didn't look all that resisted, and out comes Skeledirge. My, this opponent completely core broken by Hydreigon, and Hydreigon smelling blood in the water. Brutal Swing forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. At this point, they're essentially playing the inevitable out, as Hydreigon is about to sweep the back line. We invest a Protect Shield, blocking up the Torch Song bait, but no bait. We'll be saving Skeledirge's fate. Brutal Swing removes Skeledirge from the field of play. Back out comes Ampharos. We're going to outpace the Brutal Swing number 2, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Galarian Weezing in the lead position. A commanding lead for me. Of all the fairy types, Weezing's probably the best into poison types, as their sub-poison typing means my poison type damage is only neutral. The opponent fire off the Brutal Swing, pivot, into Goodra, and you better believe the big squid's like, I'm not just a meat shield, I want to get on the big boom action. Unfortunately, Blizzard forces the Protect Shield. We should be able to very easily maintain alignment. We pivot into Hydreigon, race to the Brutal Swing puts in a range where we can Dragon Breath farm down afterwards. Sometimes the Go Battle League isn't all that complicated, you just got to maintain alignment, that I certainly intend to do in this battle. We don't want Primeape on Weezing. We respect the Draco, which the opponent clearly doesn't have, or potentially they baited me. I don't really care, to be honest. We're about to shield a Thunder Punch regardless. We shield one, tank one, leave minimal farm for Weezing, and fire off a Brutal Swing, getting off a little bit of chip damage too. Back out comes the big squid. The big squid going to be operating as the damage sponge. And we've got to hope Primeape's good against what's in the back. Tentacle not in danger of getting knocked out by a Brutal Swing, and we're now receiving the energy for a Scald, so I'm going to pause, see if the opponent remain in my screen, or send something out where Scald hits for a lot of neutral damage. Out comes Moltres, Scald forces the opponent's final Protect Shield, and Primeape hits the field of play. Hydreigon's already swept the team, and now it's Primeape's turn. I'm going to of course shield up the fly. I'm thinking, does a close combat actually knock out? To be honest, I'm not entirely sure, so I'm going to fire off a Rage Fist, vamp up my attack. We're then going to farm up, trap the opponent into the CMP tile. They do not win. Close combat, one stage boosted, going to be massive overkill. Onto Moltres, back out comes Galarian Weezing, Primeape able to outpace to the boosted Rage Fist, and we take that game. GG's that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Toxicroak in the lead position, running Poison Sting. This is without a doubt one of the most fun picks you can use. The opponent safe switch into Gelatin in an attempt to make a catch. I hold my energy, and here comes Hydreigon. Hydreigon should be a complete wall to the energy, unless on the off chance this opponent is running Ice Beam. They fire off the Surf. Hydreigon withstands the damage, fires off the Brutal Swing. I'm going to fire off the next Brutal Swing, and once again, just look to maintain alignment. Brutal Swing removes Gelatin from the field of play, and Toxicroak is going to have to dump its energy. The opponent end up playing to a very risky CMP tile. This is IV dependent. However, they are able to win, so clearly they've got some attack weighted. But the Dragon Breaths are certainly put in a range where one singular Scald will be moving Toxicroak from the field of play. What makes Toxicroak so good is it's got that magical Ghost and Fight and coverage that only Hisuian Zoroark can wall. We pause a turn, ensuring the Scald lands on its intended target. To be honest, the next one I spam. They can catch if they want, or they're going to have to give up that final protection. The opponent invests the final protection, and Primeape hits the field of play with a magical 2-0 shield advantage. I could have went straight for the Rage Fist on CMP, winning CMP, but instead I'm thinking, let's just keep farming up. The opponent goes for a catch attempt, unsuccessful. Cradilly, you sir might be thick, but Primeape about to remind you, you aren't thick enough. Close combat, massive overkill, Cradilly straight in and straight out, and clearly the opponent's rage quit the app, which I'm not a big fan of, but I let him off as Toxicroak is a fun pick. They're still going to get BM close combat into the face as we take that game. What did we learn in that battle? Well, when shields are down, Shadow Primeape certainly goes to town. In the next battle, we see Licky, far too thicky, in the lead position. We say switch into Primeape, checking for any potential fairies. The opponent sends out Gliscopod, which isn't actually the best Primeape counter. One Rage Fist into a boosted close combat does remove this bug from the field of play. Two choices, give me a shield or give me switch advantage. The opponent wants to maintain alignment, and that works for me. This now sets up an opportunity for Tentacle to just fully wall the energy and commit to a massive acid farm down, leaving absolutely loaded. The opponent goes for an X's there. Not entirely sure why. We do fully wall the moveset, but Aqua Jet does 5 more, so that is certainly the move you should throw. Here the opponent recognises it, go for the Aqua Jet, but regardless, the big squid gets a huge farm down, leaving it very close to 100 energy. Back out comes Licky. We're going to fire off one acid and the Scald for optimal fast move timing, then make the pivot into Hydreigon. We actually end up catching a body slam there, which kind of works for me, and out comes Skeledirge. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that this is game over. Essentially, let's have a heart attack mid-battle. There is literally nothing the opponent can do. They tank the Brutal Swing. Hydreigon gonna go for the one shield. Dragon Breath farm down. Crunch is certainly an interesting move choice. There's no point in baiting. A full send the Dragon Pulse, pick up the knockout, or force the final Protect Shield because we got a Scald bank. The opponent call the Brutal Swing bait. We nuke him to the face and take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see a fantastic lead, but a very problematic save switch. You don't really want to send out your own dragon behind an energy when you both pace at the same speed to charge move. The opponent very rudely Octazooka to the face, but undeterred, Primeape going to farm up to the double close combat. Close combat goes unshielded. Rage Fist would be neutral. Close combat is double resisted, but what I'm looking to do here is minimise the farm. I'm already down 1 Protect Shield. I don't want to give Togekiss a huge energy lead. We send back out the squid. Out comes Nidoqueen, and I'm in trouble. Dragon Breaths are doing a lot, but the Mud Slaps are tearing through my HP. We fire off the Brutal Swing, the opponent with a boatload of energy. I attempt to play 2 CMP, but the opponent takes the extra. I'm now in such a tough spot. Thankfully, the next Brutal Swing does go on shield, and the opponent does look to dump some energy. Of course, I can't shield this. What am I going to shield? I think a lot of Togekiss run Aura Spear and Gleam. But here I'm in a tough position. I don't really want to get debuffed. Last second, I crap my pants. Invest the Protect Shield. It ends up being a huge shield as we correctly shield up a Stone Edge. Back out comes Togekiss. We go straight for the Scald. Scald isn't lethal, but does come with a chance to debuff. The opponent end up getting Acid Farm down, and we just about escape for a dub. Oof, that was dicey. Heading into the next battle, we see the Steel Penguin in the lead. In this battle of water types, you'd rather be the Penguin than the Squid. Both quick moves are resisted. My acids are actually double resisted, but we're slower to charge moves. I bank some energy, make the pivot into Primeape, baiting out Combo O. Interestingly, also running Metal Sound. I probably should tank the first upper hand as it does have a chance to debuff. We're actually going to look to keep Primeape healthy because the opponent's going to have to double shield if they want to maintain alignment. The first close combat forces the opponent's first Protect Shield. We farm up, throw on CMP, winning CMP, and very quickly force the opponent all shields down. We're going to say, Primeape, thank you very much for your contribution, and I hope Hydreigon is ABA good into the team. It's not the best into the Penguin, but good enough. As we banked energy earlier, we're going to be able to outpace to the Blizzard. Blizzard picks up the one-hit KO. We pivot into Hydreigon, and out comes Annihilate. Not really what we're looking to see. Does Dragon Pulse put them in a range where we can Dragon Breath farm down afterwards? Potentially. The reason I'm actually shielding here, potentially with shield advantage, we could take out that Steel Penguin with our Squid, but you know what, that'd be very slow and boring. I attempt to reach the Brutal Swing, unfortunately unable to do so, and this one is going to end in heartbreaking defeat. We need DRE to get that move off. I recognise I'm a potato, and I'm going to concede the match. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see another Ampharos in the lead position. Not fantastic. We're going to throw one Acid, transfer the Volt Switch onto Primeape, and see what the opponent looks to do. A lot are now going to run Thunder Punch. We do invest a Protect Shield, shielding up the Thunder Punch. The opponent take their shield advantage and send out an Ice Fang Hippowdon. Of course we're full sending. It's just YOLO close combats, left, right and centre close combat, able to land. We're going to fire off the Rage Fist. Potentially could have Karate Chop farm down, but I think I can still Karate Chop farm down, even after forcing a shield. Unfortunately, that isn't the case, but ends up in a simultaneous KO, which isn't the worst case scenario. We now find ourselves in the guessing game, but unfortunately we guess wrong. Of course, I'm going to have to shield up a Glaciate. I'm then going to bank a boatload of energy and look to catch the next Glaciate onto the big Squid. We farm up, we're able to make the catch, and that should be a game-winning play. The opponent can actually stay in here and rebank a Glaciate, but it shouldn't matter. I don't often check stuff before a battle, but I do know that Hydreigon's got a monstrous attack stat. So even though they've got a charge move bank, we just need to force the final Protect Shield or the knockout, and we're good to go. We're able to force the opponent's final Protect Shield. We're doubled up on charge moves. Thunder Punch removes me from the field of play. We re-enter the arena, fire off the Brutal Swing. A Brutal Swing will move an Ampharos from the field of play, and the next Brutal Swing is going to be not all she wrote. What the helly? Shout out Gaines for that quote. Do they have a higher attack? You can see here, I'm like, what the heck just happened? I'm going to go into PV Poke, check the IVs. So we've got like a 175 attack. They've got a 170, but I guess if it's a raid catch, potentially they're like 15 attack. We've got a decent IV, so I guess in some very niche scenarios, you can lose that CMP tie. It is what it is. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see another Ampharos in the lead. Just because I lost lead, it doesn't mean I want to lose back-to-back battles. We invest Protect Shield, blocking up the Thunder Punch here. We're going to throw 4, attempt to trap the opponent into the CMP tie, but they take the extra, which is heartbreaking for me. We have got a Rage Fist bank, but there's no point in throwing it, because if they take the extra again, I'm going to get fully Volt Switch farm down afterwards. If we was doubled up on Close Combat, I would have thrown, as Close Combat would have been lethal, whereas Rage Fist would not. We now send out Hydreigon. The opponent gives up Switch, sending out Weezing, and Tentacruel instantly hits the field of play. The opponent's already seen my Squid, so the issue with this is, clearly they're looking to bait Tentacruel back out, so I'm worried that whatever's in the back is going to be weak to Tentacruel, and good into Hydreigon, but it is what it is. You, of course, cannot stay in this matchup. We actually get a Scald attack drop, which means the next 2 Brutal Swings are easily survivable. An argument could be made that I should shield this, as potentially whatever's in the back is good into Hydreigon, but I really don't want to shield the big Squid. The opponent gives up Switch, sending out Ampharos, 1 Acid, and the Scald. Scald forced the final protection. We pivot into Hydreigon, and we're able to snipe him down. Brutal Swing will be moving them from the field of play. The opponent sends out Gliscopod. Of course I need to shield this. I need to be mindful the opponent's timer is popping up. Do I go for double Brutal Swing or do I go for Dragon Pulse? We're just going to go to the Dragon Pulse. Is that the correct play? Is Dragon Pulse enough to knock out? Yes, it is. We're able to reach a Brutal Swing too, and we're able to take that game. GG's that opponent. I was honestly so worried the Dragon Pulse would be caught back onto Weezing, but no catch attempt was made. In the next battle, what the heck is with these electric type leads, man? Are you kidding me? I throw 5 acids, attempt to catch onto Primeape, catch attempt unsuccessful, but out comes Gator. And this is great for me. I can either force both Protect Shields or realign my Pokemon, and either work. We force both Protect Shields, we can acid farm down this Gator, and then scold that Pancake to their face. We force in the close combat, get that Gator off my screen. We're doubled up. The opponent sends back out Stunfisk, end up playing to CMP, which isn't a good idea. Mr. Pancake, your attack stat is like 35 lower than mine. Unfortunately, much to my disappointment, the close combat doesn't force a Protect Shield, but in reality that's probably better, as I just need to land one single Brutal Swing now to remove them from the field of play. We send out Hydreigon, the opponent pivots into the Steel Penguin. We bank a boatload of energy and send out the Squid. Whilst this isn't a good matchup, we can just use it as a meat shield and try and just do as much damage as we physically can. Once again, putting this Penguin into a range of Brutal Swings lethal. Shadow Tentacle is such a monster, man. Even after the Thunder Shock damage earlier, we can tank back-to-back Drill Pecks, reach another Scold. Scold actually forced the protection. The opponent's got 2. They recognise they need to shield something. We go for the Wham Bam combo play, fire off the Brutal Swing, which forced the opponent's final protection. And from here, we've got a very clear path forward. Mud Bomb, gonna do less than a Drill Peck. If I'm being honest, that did a lot more than I was expecting, but regardless, we've got this game wrapped up. One Brutal Swing knocks out the Pancake, back out comes the Steel Penguin, and the next Brutal Swing is going to be all she wrote. GG's that opponent. Heading into the next battle. Tentacle this time finds its target, with Galarian Weezing in the lead position. The opponent remain on my screen. To be honest, I thought they'd catch, but it kind of is what it is at this point. I need to throw at some point. Scold actually goes unshielded. Then they send out Florges. What the heck is this team comp? ABA Fairy. As I said previously in the video, Weezing's probably the best fairy into a poison type. So you may as well just stay in and sack your lead rather than sacrifice Florges to the Pokegods. We got the attack drop with the Scold, which is nice for me. They're actually debuffing me here, which is even nicer for me, as all it actually does is give Tentacle yet more farm. The opponent sends out Shadow Primeape, despite being 2-stage debuff. This likely goes shield, as Primeape users love to shield everything, unless your name's Jamiefin. We then pivot into Primeape, look to fire off the Rage Fist, before we potentially get close combated to the face. The opponent catch onto Weezing. They even invest a final Protect Shield, and I think that's more than fine for me. I think this is going to be game over without the opponent even seeing my third. The opponent is doubled up. Look to throw back-to-back. Primeape, thank you very much for your contribution. Brutal Swing plus a Fairy Wind knocks me out. At this point, we can tank the Brutal Swing, fully acid farm down, leave him with a charge move to one-hit KO Primeape. The opponent goes for the Wham Bam combo play. I invest a Protect Shield, blocking up the Rage Fist. We're going to fire off the Scold, Shadow and Shadow Crime, poor old Primeape straight in and straight out. We're going to acid farm down Weezing and take that game. Hydreigon getting a well-deserved rest on the bench. In the next battle, we found ourselves somewhat of a core breaker. To be honest, Corviknight beats the entirety of my team, but it is what it is. It's bulky, doesn't hit that hard. Well, not normally anyway, unless they get the attack boost. Fantastic. We fire off the Scold. Scold doesn't get the attack debuff. We're still more than content to tank yet another Air Cutter at this point. We need to save Tentacle in case they got a Fairy, so I do make the pivot into Primeape. If they weren't boosted, I'd be more than content to tank an Air Cutter. As they've got the boost, I am going to invest a Protect Shield. I'm not entirely sure a Rage Fist knocks out, to be honest. I'm more than certain it does not. So we YOLO the close combat and see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent look to call the bait. They get one shot, vanquished, back to their Pokeball. Primeape is debuffed, but out comes Belly Bolt. Running Sucker Punch, not applying too much fast move pressure. We farm up to 2 more close combats. The first one, forced to Protect Shield. Primeape says, don't worry, buddy, there's plenty more where that came from. The next one, massive damage. The opponent looking for the Sucker Punch farm down. Primeape, chill, bro. Primeape reaches the Rage Fist. What is going on? Primeape absolutely popping off. We send out Hydreigon. Hydreigon going to be operating as the team's damage sponge. The opponent only learns electric type moves. I'm not entirely sure why. Why would you not Zap Cannon there? Out comes Giratina. We're going to YOLO the Dragon Pulse. Dragon Pulse, nearly one-hit KOs. One of the bulkiest mon in the format. We can just shield this up. The opponent has got a Parabolic Charge bank. I could catch back onto Tentacruel, but I really don't need to. Parabolic Charge will remove me from the field of play. Tentacruel going to get the glory stint, acid farming down Bellibolt, and we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we found ourselves another problem, Scizor. To be honest, I should probably tank a charge move before pivoting into Primeape. We managed to bait out Corviknight. Close combat won't one-shot from full health, so I'm going to fire off the Rage Fist and then look to start YOLOing some CCs. What a mad team competition from this opponent, man. ABA Steel, but to be honest, we're 20 minutes into the video. I don't think I've seen a single fire type yet, have I? Where are all the Talonflame and Typhlosions? Even Kanto Ninetales is looking pretty good. But I guess this opponent, much like me, is yet to see a single fire type. Clearly they're a myth. Much to my disappointment, the close combat goes shield, and I'm thinking, how the hell do I deal with that Scizor? If we get energy at Hydreigon, the Brutal Swings are going to do crazy damage as we're two very glassy shadow Pokemon. I'm just going to farm up, try and get to like 100 energy, fire off a Brutal Swing to knock out this Corviknight and hope to spam the absolute shit out of a Scizor or whatever's in the back. We fire off the Brutal Swing removes Corviknight from the field of play, back out comes Scizor. We fire off the first Brutal Swing, goes shielded, the opponent doesn't throw the Night Slash. To be honest, Night Slash wouldn't knock out. We fire off the next Brutal Swing, monstrous damage, we pivot into Tentacruel, save Hydreigon and make the catch. Hopefully Tentacruel's good against the third. Thundershock Bellibolt. Oof. Yeah, this one isn't going to go quite according to plan. Kind of a crazy team comp. It is what it is. I'm going to concede. GG's, buddy, you got me. Heading into the next battle. What an absolutely atrocious lead. Golurk. We instantly pivot into Primeapes. Usually you want to throw out 1, 4, and 7. As Switch takes a turn, 5 is optimal timing. I cannot believe the opponent tanked that. Whilst they can survive, look how much it does. And this Golurk is essentially neutralised. Of course, I'm going to have to send out Hydreigon here. We fully wait out the timer as we are still going to be switch locked. The opponent concede a farm down, potentially meaning they've got a hard answer for Hydreigon in the back. Out comes Greninja. We've still got 2 shields, but you better believe I'm YOLOing the Dragon Pulse regardless. Does the opponent respect the damage? They do not. Greninja near gets one shot. We save Hydreigon. Switch timer's up and we catch back onto the big squid. We're able to snipe down with an acid, and once again, out comes a Thundershock Bellibolt. This is kind of awkward. I've got 2 shields. I am going to shield this up. They're buffing up their defense. However, we can potentially debuff them, and the debuff can never be unset. Bellibolt, you get exactly what you deserve. You absolute boring, bulky nonsense pick. They get debuffed to recognise they're never going to be able to get through Hydreigon, and they concede the match. In the next battle, we see another very interesting ABA Steel team. Who sends the Penguin out into Primeape? The opponent probably thinking, who YOLOs a close combat right off the bat? Me, trainer. I do. Get your Steel Penguin off my screen. Back out comes Scizor. Here we're going to farm to close combat and bait with a Rage Fist. The thought process is I can potentially boosted Karate Chop them into range where one singular Scald knocks out. And I think that is certainly the case. We're also able to force a Protect Shield too. Honestly, Primeape was the best 700,000 Stardust I ever invested. I'll be honest, motivation to play is pretty low, but every time I use Primeape, man, it's so much fun. The opponent has definitely found himself into Scald range. Scald forces the opponent's final protection. We pivot into Hydreigon. We end up catching a Night Slash. I wasn't really trying to catch, but we'll take it. Night Slash doesn't do too much. The opponent sends out Galarian Moltres. We've got a 2-0 shield advantage. The opponent recognises they're absolutely cooked, and they concede the match. Heading into the next battle, we see another fairy in the lead. Tentacruel ended up being a very polarising pick for me. Either really hard one lead, was completely in an awful matchup. It didn't really see too many neutral ones. The opponent say switch into Bellibolt. We fire off the Brutal Swing, recognise the opponent's likely to shield the first move. The opponent farming up 2 potential Zap Cannons. I'm going to take the initiative, fire off yet another Brutal Swing, which does go unshielded. Hydreigon is hella glassy. Potentially if they land the Zap Cannon, they can flip switch. We invest a huge Protect Shield. The opponent then pivots out into Primeape. Primeape going to be greeted with the Dragon Pulse. Dragon Pulse doesn't get respected. Trainer, are you serious? We now send out Primeape, essentially just going to sacrifice it. Close combat picks up the 1-hit KO, but Tentacruel more than going to carry us home. We wait at our clock. Not entirely sure why, to be honest. We acid farm down. Bellibolt just going to get acid farm down. Togekiss doesn't want the smoke, and the opponent concedes the match. Have you ever seen quicker Ultra League battles than the ones on display today? In the next battle, did I not tell you this thing is a bloody polarising pick? The opponent send out Gator. We're going to bank this energy, tank a charge move, and then I guess make the pivot into Hydreigon. We are going to fire off the Brutal Swing before the opponent potentially Ice Beam me to the face. I'm hoping I've Dragon Breathed them into a range where this Brutal Swing knocks out, and we're able to get the KO. Back out comes Florges, whilst we are going to get absolutely a fully fair win farm down. The energy doesn't really go too many places. Brutal Swing, single resisted, Dragon Pulse, double resisted, so Brutal Swing is the correct play. You can see back-to-back Brutal Swings, and the double resisted Dragon Breaths have actually got this below half health, which is certainly a good effort in an absolutely atrocious matchup. The opponent bank a buckload of energy, make the catch onto Ampharos, but Scold does crazy damage and we get the attack drop. At this point, the opponent sees the writing on the wall, and that is another very, very quick game. Shout out home size Henry. Heading into the next battle, we see Kiram in the lead position. I'm going to stay in, tank a charge move, bank the energy, and then send out Primeape. Are we going to Rage Fist or are we going to YOLO close combats? I think YOLO in close combats is certainly the correct play. The opponent sends out Runerigus. Runerigus, despite being a ghost type, doesn't have the best matchup here. They're going to have to full send a Shadow Ball. If they've even got Shadow Ball, some run Rock Tomb and then Brutal Swing. And if that's the case, we're going to fully wall the charge moves. We've got a shield advantage, so I'm more than content with that. Hopefully they don't have Shadow Ball. Ouch. We get Shadow Ball to the face, but that's fine. We can now send out Hydreigon. Hydreigon going to look to overfarm before picking up the knockout with the Brutal Swing before we very annoyingly get Rock Tomb debuffed. I imagine Rock Tomb's their second move. Brutal Swing removes them from the field of play and out comes Cradiddy. Hydreigon going to YOLO the Dragon Pulse. Dragon Pulse going to do massive damage or force a shield. We force the opponent. All shields down. I'm actually going to shield once, bank some energy and then make the pivot into Tentacruel. And then it's time to start YOLOing some Blizzards. The opponent does make the catch, but Blizzard is the move I want to throw on Kiram anyway. Potentially I should have been more patient and overfarm, but it is what it is. This game's over. The opponent needs a Grass Knot, as Grass Knot does do more. If they Rock Tomb, they're actually still going to get Blizzard to the face. We survived the Rock Tomb, reach another Blizzard, Tentacruel, getting another big boom action, claiming back-to-back victims as we take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see another Florges in the lead position. How many people are using Florges right now? To be honest, I think Florges was a fantastic community day. It's one of the very few Pokemon that's got play in all three leagues, and I think that's really important as Master League, not that accessible. But even in Master League Mega Edition, it had play, which is great to see, giving us accessible Pokemon. They save switch into Bellibolt. Here comes Hydreigon, and it looks like it might be RPS for the win, baby. I think here I should definitely Brutal Swing. I'm not entirely sure that a Dragon Pulse knocks out. The opponent actually invests a final Protect Shield, looking to realign. I remember this battle, so at the time, I was thinking I can Dragon Breath him into range where Dragon Pulse is lethal. I see Florges come in. I panic, thinking my timer's not up. It actually is. This is such a waste of energy. I fire off the Brutal Swing, pivot into Tentacruel, when in reality I should have banked the energy and pivot into Tentacruel. Despite the potato play, we're still in a fantastic position. We can tank the Trailblaze, fully acid farm down. If Bellibolt re-enters the arena, it's going to be straight in and straight out. Scold, now they've not got a buffed up defense, picks up the knockout and out comes Kiram. We're going to commit to the Blizzard. The opponent not wanting to get Blizzard to the face. Going to fire off a charge move. Glacier, even being resisted, does remove me from the field of play. We send out Primeape. The opponent like, nah, I don't want the smoke, and they concede the match. Tentacruel continues to be a very polarizing pick, and this time we hard lose lead. The opponent stay in, chip with a body slam. Oh man, Primeape, you glassy boy, that did far too much damage. Finally, we see a fire type. Out comes Ember Charizard. A Rage Fist into close combat. Either going to realign or force a Protect Shield. Close combat in here. Also, minimizing the farm should the opponent wish to go down the shield route. Primeape continues to put in work, this time gaining a shield advantage in the mid-game matchup. I'm hoping I can tank back-to-back Blast Burns and fully acid farm down. Shadow and Shadow Crime, how much does this do? Ouch. Potentially the next one's actually going to knock us out. So I'm going to invest a Protect Shield. As that Gastron matchup suddenly doesn't look all that bad with a huge energy lead. If Gastron re-enters the arena, I'm just going to YOLO the Blizzard. Looking to do as much damage as I physically can. Blizzard goes unshielded, almost a one-hit KO. We pivot into Hydreigon, looking for the snipe. Snipe attempt unsuccessful, and out comes Dust Noir. Hydreigon, once again, looking to close the show. Brutal Swing forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. They farm up to what could be a Dynamic Punch. They go for the Shadow Punch bait here. I'm going to throw on CMP, not wanting the opponent to get off a Shadow Punch, and then potentially snipe with a Mud Slap. Brutal Swing removes them from the field of play. Back out comes the Snail. We outpace to the next Brutal Swing, and that is going to be all she wrote. And we end today's video with yet another Hydreigon sweep. GG's, and thanks for playing. And that is just about going to wrap things up for today's showcase. If you're yet to build a Shadow Primeape, trust me, it is not a waste of 2 Elite TMs and 700,000 dust. This thing is so much fun. To be honest, Hydreigon actually surprised me. I didn't expect much from it, but it put in hella work. Of course, today's team isn't really for climbing. I was able to go positive, but we are very, very much in the trenches. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button if you're new. Consider subscribing if you like your battles featured on my channel. Link to all battle submission form is down below. And as always, I'm going to say a huge thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.